This is my shame. What's up, folks? I'm Odd, by the way, and welcome to a new kind of art challenge that I've made for myself. This is going to be a change of pace for me, really, right? I am predominantly a digital artist. However, I like making things. It's just part of my nature, and so I have a large stash of traditional supplies. Stuff that I've just collected over a period of time. Sometimes I'll grab things that I think will be fun to play with, and sometimes I do. Most of the time I do, but then I don't use all of it. So I have these boxes full of stuff that I don't really use because digital art takes a higher priority over them. It's easier for me to do. It's more immediately accessible. My desk is quite small, so having something set up here for traditional stuff takes up the entire desk and I can't do anything else. It's a mess a lot of the time, and I'm a very messy person. So I like to sprawl and I don't have space to sprawl. It's just nonsense all around. And I don't have the excuse of making videos for it. That is a big aspect of this channel, is me having personal excuses to draw, to make things that I wouldn't otherwise immediately think of making, because I wanted to make things. I just didn't necessarily have the personal drive to do it. So I created the executive through you, through the audience on the channel. And that's how my brain works and how I make things regularly. So I have created another wheel. This is my art things wheel. Relatively decent representation of all of the things that I have in my art stash. So I'm going to, I think, set to roll this a couple of times, and I will use it to pick the supplies from my art stash that I want to destash. Doing so also allows me to, make excuses to get more stuff later on if I feel like it. But I want to use what I have first. So that is what we shall do. And at that, let's just hop right into it, because this is probably already going to be something that takes a little while longer than my usual episodes. So I would rather just get right into it. I might roll this 2 or 3 times, depending on what I get. Like, if I get one of these red ones, I might want to stack it up with something else, especially. Although, guaranteed, if I get, dolls or wind-up toys, I'm probably going to have to use my paint box, because nothing else is going to work on them. But let's just see what I get and what I can make, either mixed media or separate pieces out of this, I think is going to be the general idea. I'm just leaving this up to chance, so I don't need to make a decision on what medium I'm using. And we are going to get sculpting supplies. Okay, so that is mostly my snack box, the one that I got from Nerdy Crafter a couple of years ago. I bought it personally, and I think I have some polymer clay somewhere. I may or may not need to play around with that, but okay. Sculpting supplies. And let's see what else I might get. I'm gonna get sculpting supplies again! Come on, give me something different. Wind-up toys? Or pastels? Pastels, okay. I could probably use those together. And I guarantee that I'm going to need to use paints, but let's just see. Is it gonna be What are the chances? 3 times! Well, okay, I guess the universe just really wants me to sculpt something, so I guess that's what we're going to do. And possibly apply my pastels somehow if I can. So I will figure out how to do that, and I will come back to you once I have sorted out what exactly it is that I want to do with this medium. So I'll see you there. The majority of my sculpting stuff comes from the snack box, so I figured it was about time that I took another crack at using the mold, since I also still had the original plaster. I don't know if it was maybe a little too old or if I mixed it weird, but it seemed to almost separate a bit even after I mixed it thoroughly. I also had some leakage that I was able to stop, thankfully, but all that resulted in my resulting figurine having a flat head. He has no brain, but he's fine otherwise. This turned out to be pretty perfect, actually, because I had decided I was going to make an Enfield, which is one of my favorite obscure mythical beasties. It's a heraldic creature and is essentially a fox with eagle talons and feathers. Apparently it can also be depicted with a lion's body and a wolf's hind legs and tail. I really just went for the feathered fox approach here, though. I also had decided not to pour the wings because I figured I could use the clay to make them more dynamic, but I wound up not using the molds at all for this. I did have just enough plaster for the mold and the base, which is what I decided to pour instead. The mold is interesting because it's removed in two parts. First the sides after 1 hour and the center after another. Removing the center is a bit like birthing a papier-mâché baby deer, and with the tiniest amount of pressure applied, I did accidentally manage to break one of his legs. Super glue came to the rescue once I realized I could just kind of stand him back up to support the leg as it dried. I don't know if it's just the nature of the plaster or the fact that it was older or what, but I accidentally broke the back legs in particular like 4 times throughout this whole process, possibly not even in the same places each time. The finished sculpture is probably like 30% super glue. When it came to concepting, I did go back, as I always do, to digital art. It was really useful to figure out the general idea of the colors and shapes I wanted to use. The concept and the finished piece weren't identical, I didn't intend them to be, but I do think I managed to get pretty close to the colors that I wanted. I had a character similar to this guy for a long time, so I kind of revamped or really just fully created the character inspired by that original concept. This is Helio. He's an adept writer and storyteller, kind of a struggling artist, so he uses his wit and ability to craft stories to fund his ventures. A con man. He's a con man. He travels around a lot to get inspiration, seek out marks, and avoid the consequences of his own actions. Another one of the reasons I don't sculpt in particular a lot is because of how time consuming it is. The sculpting process here took me somewhere around 4 or 5 hours. The whole raw footage of this is somewhere closer to 10 or 11. My hands are still sore from the cosplay, which was probably a little old, but thankfully not dried out or anything. It's just also tedious to warm up even when it's new. I wound up kind of fudging it with his talons, but this is probably one of the most detailed sculpts I've ever done. That being said, I haven't done many. All of the little bits were very tedious, but also just my own decision to be fussy about the details, and I think they turned out nicely. After a very cautious bake that all parts of our boy Helio thankfully survived, it was finally time to paint, and there come the next like 3 breaks of the plaster back legs. Maybe I should bake this into Helio's backstory, just constantly breaking a leg every once in a while. Thankfully, once I started getting to the colors, it wasn't as bad, but the base coat was just especially harrowing for this poor sculpt. Maybe the acrylic paint strengthened him after that, I don't know. The snack box does come with an airbrush, which is one of the coolest things that I own. I just didn't feel like using it. It's a bit of a hassle to change colors and mix the right combinations. In hindsight, it probably could have been easier to do the base coat with it at the very least, but with all the other details I wanted, it wasn't optimal for this sculpt. I did almost forget the base once I was finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for this paint job, but I had also forgotten the pastels I rolled. I wound up combining the two instead of touching my pretty colors on Helio. I'm still not entirely sure how to use pastels. I kind of approach them like I do chalk, so I mix them with water in parts to create this cool sort of spiral of yellowed grass for Helio's base. It creates a very midsummer sort of vibe, and I feel like he encapsulates that well. I even got a few pictures with him with my sunflowers outside for good measure. But that is my project for this week. This was a long one, clearly, because I wound up having to push it to Sunday, but I really like how he turned out. The finished result gives me a very claymation or stop motion vibe, and like he's just ready to move around. It's super fun. Despite my trouble, I did have a good time with this, though I'm probably good on sculpting again for a while. I hope you liked this video. It's a bit of a change of pace, obviously, and my setup isn't perfect for sculpture or traditional art in general, but I love having an excuse to play around with it regardless. At that, though, I'll leave this here with my finished boy Helio, and I'll see y'all next time.